There is something that everybody knows that they want. There is a little purpose there that's kind of nagging at you. But if you don't take action, you'll just never know. And you've got to take the small actions or the small experiments that you do after work to de-risk the bigger action.
Hi, Michelle. Welcome to Shiko.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Shreya.
Absolutely. Michelle, can you share a bit more about yourself?
Sure. These days, I frame it a little bit differently. I used to always start off with what I do for a career. I used to be a product manager, chief of staff, and pretty complex kind of corporate roles, I would say. These days, I think I define myself much more as a builder. I feel like I've come kind of full circle and back to it. When I stepped away from my corporate role a couple of months back, I took a step back to really look at what I wanted to do. So I feel like building is still kind of in my bones. And also, I feel like I've always wanted to teach. So that's something that I knew instinctively when I was a child. Like literally, it's like when my kid is 6 years old now and you ask to draw something in class, I was like, yes, teacher, obviously. So now I feel like I've come back to that as well. So I really want to teach. I really want to share what I've learned across all these years with people. And I also do career coaching. So I've created a program, not the 9 to 5, but the 5 to 9, and how you maximize the time outside of work to find real purpose and meaning in the work that you want to do.
So, you mentioned about the 5 to 9 bit. I would like to know a bit more about it. How does it differ from a typical entrepreneurial program? Because typical 9 to 5 is known as you're a professional, and then your 5 to 9 is a term today that we're using that to explore a different personality of yours. What is it that you're doing at 5 to 9, which is not
Journey, I suppose.
journey? Yes, journey, absolutely. And what is it that leaders learn from you? How is it that they can turn their curiosity into tangible outcomes?
I think the 5 to 9 came up as an idea when I was discussing this with somebody that I got to know. He's a designer and he introduces play back into our everyday lives. And I realized that, oh, we're totally missing it. I even tried to recall back to some of my favorite career moments, and they always involved the team, quite a closely knit team. And we had a lot of laughter in the workplace, and I really missed that. So I think arguably you work with a team, you stay late, you have like pizza together, and then you laugh and you crack jokes, right? And then you kind of feed off each other's energy. Sometimes it's hard to find that in the workplace, honestly. It really depends on the chemistry between people. But it shouldn't just be that. You should all be kind of bound by a bigger purpose. And I think that's the organizations that I'm really drawn to now. And the idea of this 5 to 9 is really how do you maximize your hours outside of work, outside your day job, and really tap into a different version of yourself. And with that, how do you actually explore a version that has never come to the fore? Maybe you've had a dream for a long time. Like I wanted to do coaching for a really long time. I checked and it was over 10 years. And I never really did anything about it. So arguably I coached people over lunch, over coffee sessions in the workplace, but it wasn't something formalized or articulated even for myself. But I realized as well, it's kind of a strength. I really draw that out of people and intuitively get the motivations behind people. So the 5 to 9 is what do you do? How do we introduce play for you? And then you make full use of the time and the community that we've built to really kind of ride on each other's energies, hold each other accountable so you get an accountability partner or a buddy right from day one. And we introduce little experiments, little play moments, which you will remember and which you will actually think back and like, oh, what was I thinking at that point in time? Because one of the things I also discovered is that there is an ability to be vulnerable among strangers, which even surprised me. So I joined something called Stranger Gathering. And it was a 3 month, quite immersive program where we met people who have led non-linear careers 2 times a week. And that was really normalizing what it means to have a non-linear career here in Singapore, but also broader in Asia. And I think that that kind of opened all our eyes because something shifted in all of us. And yes, you do need a very immersive experience, but I want my program to be a little bit more structured to help people to have a very clear outcome out of that. Do we actually tap into a persona that we've always been wondering about? Because in my coaching sessions with people, I've discovered that there is something that everybody knows that they want. There is a little purpose there that's kind of nagging at you. But if you don't take action, you'll just never know. And you've got to take the small actions or the small experiments that you do after work to de-risk the bigger action, which is maybe to change job function, change industry, change geography. You never know. But people need to work up to that kind of confidence and kind of trial a job first. Try it on for a good fit before you know whether you really want that or not, and before you go for it. Yeah, so it could be building a side hustle, but it's really taking away the pressure of having to monetize, having to grow so fast, having to have that hustle culture from day one. I think there's a lot of strength in just holding space for each other too.
That's very interesting. I want to focus on one word that you mentioned, play. Why is play so important even as an adult? And as adults, we don't do that.
Yeah.
What sort of mindset change have you seen amongst the people when you introduce this play concept
Yeah.
in their 5 to 9?
I think play is something that we all take for granted. We don't even think about it. But I had a lot of mom guilt actually when I was in my corporate role. And I felt like every day when I tuck my kid into sleep, or actually the next morning when I have to rush off and I can't send her to school, I feel like those are critical moments that I miss. And with my kid, everything is instinctive. Play is instinctive. It's like you're 6 years old, like, you want to know, "Oh, I just want to play before I sleep." Like, that's a mandatory, you know? But I think it really forced me to take life a little bit slower and to, well, not think, actually not think for a while, for those couple of hours. And I would always bring her outdoors. So I think that that's really important. Coming back to when you introduce play to adults, it's a little bit of a different thing. Adults are not always like ready to let their guard down and just engage in play. They're like, what is this? I don't want to be like dancing in front of strangers, unless you've got the right setting, the right personalities, which I don't really want to be so exclusive about, right? I think like a lot of people just need to shed a bit of their corporate self before they introduce play. Play for us in this program is a little bit different. So one of the most stark examples is create something non-functional. A lot of people feel very stuck. They're like, what do you mean? So conditioned to make something super useful, and that's what my grade is measured upon. But here, if your grade is like pure aesthetics, make it beautiful, but non-functional. I think that really trains your brain to think in very different ways. And I think that that's what we're able to kind of marry together in a way that is very different for a lot of people, that I think they will find it very stark at first shot, but I think it encourages them in ways that they don't imagine. Another example is I want them to think of an exaggerated version of themselves. Or what is that persona you think you need to be, maybe as a product manager, but you've never been given a chance. And maybe you're a business analyst and you're wondering like, oh, how do I do this? How do I prove to my managers that I should be given a shot? Because I can't really do the product manager role at work. There's so many restrictions, and there is a product manager that I'm kind of reporting or working with. So what do we do? So you need that person to kind of shed the business analyst persona a little bit, forget it almost, and reintroduce himself as, hey, I'm the product manager at this workplace, and live that for a week. And I think there is an element of almost taking risk in every play instance that is inherent that we want to introduce, because it's like small little ways of taking risk that you build up the confidence and then you step out and really become this new person. Yeah.
You mentioned that it's a weekly journey. What does a typical week look like when someone's going through a 5 to 9 with you?
So I think we was got over 4 weeks, and we start off the first one with really trying to figure out, hey, what's your career journey? What is it that you tell yourself? And then we also get them to tap into their immediate surroundings of people that they trust and to ask for feedback. Because what is often quite surprising is what people tell you they think of your strengths that you weren't even aware of. So sometimes they're just blind spots. And then we step into that and use that as an introduction for everybody and a bit of a piece of homework. And sometimes it's quite confronting. They're like, oh, wow, your strength is this. And you don't quite think of it for yourself. And then within that week as well, you might be paired with something like an award. So maybe it's an award given by myself and kind of my product designer, where we say, okay, we are going to bestow upon you this award. We have a whole ceremony for this. And you're like, what is this award? I've never thought of this before, but it's actually also one of the exaggerated versions that we think that would be perfect for you. Is precisely you're not quite this person yet, that we want you to live this for a week. use that to introduce yourself to the cohort. And I think week by week, it's really about stepping into this new persona, letting the boundaries go. How do you step into also recognizing what your limiting beliefs are and then gradually actually working through what is the empowering belief to replace that. So we have something called a one rule game. So what is this one habit or something in the environment that will actually be something you come up with yourself and then totally take ownership and live this kind of different life for that other week. Yeah. And then I think slowly and slowly you build the confidence, and these are the stepping stones for you to recognize, go out there into the world and say, like, oh, I can be this person. This can be my alternate life, or this can be the side hustle that I've always been meaning to do.
In the beginning, you mentioned, Michelle, that you had to do a mindset shift about how you also introduce yourself.
Yeah.
To anyone who wants to take that plunge, who has the urge to create something,
Yeah.
what kind of mindset shift would you suggest that they should think of before they jump into anything else?
I think that we're all very different kinds of people, and we've got kind of like different risk appetite already. And this is not even financial risk appetite. This is your own risk appetite, even with regards to like a career. I do put it this way that people who are late 30s, 40s, they're a little bit of a sandwich generation already. So that maybe it's got elderly to look after. They've also got the kids to think about. And so that's why they kind of get into a situation of feeling a little bit stuck themselves, where they don't quite know how to navigate out of it. And they feel like, oh, I've got to go for my next career. It's got to earn me this much. That was the benchmark I used to earn. It's got to be the same, guys. It's equal or a little bit more, never less. And I find that that's a challenge. I want to challenge that notion really, because is that really true? If you can have something like a bit of a portfolio career, you can try out maybe teaching on the side. You can tap into things that you've always wanted to do. I mean, I've got weird examples. So, for example, for me, I've been like dying to be a barrister for the longest time. And I'm like, I really just need to try. And I chanced upon an opportunity. I met somebody in the neighborhood and I was like, let's just give this a shot. And you never really know what kind of people you might meet. But I realized that something where people also put a blocker in front of themselves is when they don't dare to take the first step. And then they're always wondering. It's like analysis by paralysis. But if they actually put out an article out there, whether it's Medium, LinkedIn, whatever, put out a video, start out an Instagram page small, right? So that's something else that we do in our program. We encourage people to have an IG dialogue, put something out there, document your journey. It's actually not for anybody else, it's for themselves. But what they don't realize is that, hey, they might attract like-minded people.
Yeah.
And that's the unlock they need to experience, because we all build in communities and not in isolation. And when you find a partner, even when I found this designer, I was like, finally there's somebody that thinks like we really feed off each other, because we don't think in the same place at all. And I think that's the unlock that needs to happen for you to get the encouragement to take step 2, 3, 4. So that shift is almost, I have imposter syndrome, but never mind, let's just do it anyway. And I'm totally afraid of this. It might not earn me the same stable income as always, but why not try in my 5 to 9 and then we'll see where it takes me. And you have to kind of dedicate some time and be forgiving of yourself. So when I stepped out of my corporate career, I was also sometimes so stressed. I'm like, I just need to find a job fast on some days, and some other days I'm like, but I'm building something and it feels meaningful and I know this is what I really want to do. So maybe that's what sacrifice meant, And I'm like, oh, I started off like, okay, I'll just give myself 3 months. I'm like, yeah, right. This is not quite right. In addition, I wanted to help people with a very specific niche who are mid-career job seekers, job switchers, to switch into a different industry or job function. And that's doubly hard in today's climate. So I think I need to give myself more time. But along the way, I have found like-minded people. Some people want to do something about a different kind of job for themselves. Some people want to actually change an ecosystem. And what are the systems that are governing how we operate actually? So something else that I do is organization design, but you have to actually have a different kind of structure sometimes to even help people perform at them. And I think these two things are really kind of wedded together and they come hand in hand. So I would say above all else, the thing that is underlying is the risk appetite. But the small steps that you take, as long as you're always in motion, you always take a small step forward. Have a coffee chat. That's my favorite. Reach out to somebody that you feel is a 2, 3 steps ahead. It doesn't have to be 20 steps ahead, you know? And you'd be surprised what you find. Throughout my career, I've also found that sometimes I got stuck. I didn't know what to do. I was like, innovation, yes. But actually, the management is pressuring us for doing business as usual. Faster, cheaper, better, smarter. And arguably, I think it wasn't easy to introduce innovation. It was important. We recognized it. But I'm like, how much resources do you dedicate there? And just the fact that I borrowed a book, something around business model canvas and innovation from the library and put it on my desk. And my boss came by one day. He's like, we need to talk about that. And I'm like, okay. So it opened up the conversation. And I really like these conversation openers, which actually also make your boss view you in a different way. And it maybe introduces somebody else to chat with you, right? But it's learning on all sides actually, and it's really about just how open-minded you are. If you don't dare to set yourself up for a coffee chat or be prepared for rejection, it's okay anyway. But then you will never learn. You won't learn to have a different perspective. And what's the worst that can happen? The worst is okay, rejection, silence. I always think silence is worse than rejection. But then some people that I have seen that are really resilient, they just keep going. They're just like, oh, I shared this article. I saw you spoke at a conference and I was really interested to find out more. And you'll be surprised that people are really interested to find out other perspectives. So I think, yeah, those are critical steps that can always help you to move forward.
I'm with you. Like attracts like.
Yeah.
That's something that I truly believe in. And another thing that I'm taking away from what you said, that really learning to bet on yourself. Like if you don't bet on yourself, then who will? Like,
Oh, will, exactly.
and having that sense of, or building that sense of self-confidence even when the days are dull.
Yeah.
And that's something that 5 to 9
Yeah.
really helps them with,
Yes, exactly.
because external motivation is really important.
Exactly. I think on my 5 to 9, it's almost like when you step out of a corporate career and you don't really know what's the routine anymore. Because you've been kind of a handbook. And like, this is your goals, this is your KPI. And suddenly you're like, oh, what is my KPI? What is my OKR? And you kind of reframe it for yourself. When you have to redefine what success means entirely, it's not like rushing to meet a particular goal. It's really success on your own terms. And to me, I've always wanted to build my own brand, right? I had no clue how. Sure, I did marketing for arguably first 10 years of my life. B2C even. So I knew how to engage people. But when it comes to marketing yourself, it's like the step is even higher. You're building your own brand. You do your own sales, marketing, brand, like everything, branding. And it's little communities that really help. There's a community podium for women. There are so many communities out there that are actually holding space and helping you to take those steps. But you have to take the first steps to go look for the communities and find different friends. That's another thing that I've learned. If you always look in the rearview mirror, you're always going to have the same bunch of friends who only define success in a specific way. And maybe they are the ones who are pressurizing you. Hey, you got to earn a similar income. What are you doing? Your social status will drop. I'm like, yeah, okay, never mind. You just got to define it differently for yourself and have a different kind of pace and cadence to the life. Because I think it's a life that from here on out, you choose for yourself.
Mm.
Yeah, and it's like living life on your own terms, which I think for me, I had a very specific break in between. I went on a holiday to Ubud and I was like, I need this break. You can call it a micro break, whatever. I was still in my job at the time, but I just felt like I needed a holiday and I needed to go myself. But I found it so enlightening. I was like in the forest. I was like thinking different and deliberately borrowed a book that talks about experimentation and stepping out. Yeah.
Well, I've loved this conversation, Michelle. Thank you for sharing your idea of what 5 to 9 needs to be like. And especially as millennials, the hustle culture is so normalized.
Yeah.
But really stepping back, reflecting, what is it that you can do that suits your personality, that suits your peripheral vision, apart from the kind of portfolio that you manage at work.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited to see that how you grow this 5 to 9 club.
Great.
But thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much.